Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Saturday. Welcome to Q&A Day, our favorite day of the week. It's my favorite. It's my favorite day.
All right.
What's yours?
It all depends.
Wednesday.
I'm open to any day being a great day.
Well, every day is a great day, but I like Q&A Day.
Okay.
And today's a special day because I have a class for a online festival. It sucks for people who run festivals. I have these good friends who run this massive Swedish yoga conference, and like the pandemic shut down their whole business, and they're just sweet people. So anyway, I'm doing the Swedish yoga conference right after this, so that's why we had to do it a little bit early. So forgive me for all the jumping around today. And tomorrow, Patreon members, I'm doing a Sweet Baby Emi class.
Sweet Baby Emi.
Sweet Baby Emi. Kaustubha came up with that idea, that name. I thought that was a great name.
All right.
But it is a special holiday for us. And by the way, it's the end of Holi. Have you been following up with the Holi extravaganza that's going on in India?
My syringes are on the altar.
People don't have no idea what you just said when you said that. You know that, right?
My syringes are there.
The syringes, there are these giant syringes in India that you fill with colored water, nothing else, and you squirt them at people you love. It is like, my daughter was like, why can't people do this in America? This is like the sweetest, funnest, coolest holiday. It really is. And I have a friend who's a Goswami in Nandagram near Vrindavan, and he sends me these photos.
That's
gets wild.
No ordinary holy there. That's like
every day.
Stuff.
It's a festival that goes on all month, and it winds up tomorrow. And so it'd be sad to see all these holy photos. I should spread them around. But anyway, it ends with this big, beautiful festival of the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. Appearance means like the birth. And we're really in debt here, Wisdom of the Sages. If you ever tried on your own to figure out the enigma, which is Hinduism, it is like a sealed vault wrapped in bubble wrap, stapled in a box, buried under the sea. It's impossible to figure it out. Lord Chaitanya, who Kaustubha and me are huge fans of, he really extracted the essence of the teachings, and he made it accessible for people like myself, who's not really qualified in any way to really understand this stuff. But he made it very accessible and practical and relevant. So Kaustubha and myself are in great debt to Chaitanya. And we're going to do a Sweet Baby Emi tomorrow. Kaustubha is going to give a class at the Bhakti Center, and I'm giving a class in New Paltz at the Gora Fest.
New Paltz.
Gora is in
New Paltz.
New Paltz. So Q&A day today.
So in other words, we're not having the regular show with the interview tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not interview today, tomorrow.
Okay, so you'll be doing a Sweet Baby Emi for Patreon members at what time?
8 o'clock, 8 to 9.
8 a.m. Eastern time.
And then we have the day off on Monday.
Okay.
So we resume everything on Tuesday. Does that make sense, Zoomers?
Yeah. Sweet Baby Emi tomorrow at 8, and then back on Tuesday.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, fantastico. And I think we'll use the same code, right? The Zoom code to get on tomorrow morning.
We were going to come up with a new one. This is the one we used every day for.
I don't know how it works. Mara asked me, "Do you want the same code?" I was like,
code.
"There's codes,
Secret codes.
secret codes." Okay, so let's get into our Q&A.
All right, I got a question for you. Oh, any other
All right.
announcements? I think that was something without Mary here. We're lost. Is something happening on tomorrow else?
Just
something
wandering around in the dark.
Yeah, that we don't know.
No.
Go to
If one
Patreon.
of the Zoomers know, just put it up on the board and we'll read it.
Because we don't know. Okay.
Yeah, Kylie asks, is it the same codes as Wisdom of the Sages? The answer is yes. Nancy R says, Bhakti recovery meeting today at 9:30.
All right. Tomorrow maybe too. Who knows? Nancy probably knows. Bhakti 101.
Bhakti 101
yes,
is not.
good. Thank you, Krishnagi. That's today. We're doing it
Oh, it is
today, 10:30 to 12:30 Eastern,
Okay.
and not tomorrow. That's the deal.
I like Krishnagi.
Me too. She was on
I was
that
thinking
one.
about her yesterday. I was like, I like this woman. Krishnagi.
With the drink in your hand, you
She
had
needs-
that profound thought. I like this woman.
I like
Krishnagi.
this.
She's adventurous.
Knew each other, but we connected. That
What are you doing now? We need Mara back. It's all falling apart.
Sorry, my bad. Okay, Kaustubha, take it away.
All right. I got
I'll be
a
back.
question for you, so we're going to need your full attention. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a question coming from Aussie Steve via email. You ready?
Steve.
He's got a tough situation here. He says, I just left a situation living with a housemate who totally hated me. Despite the fact that I was...
Steve.
Well, even despite the fact that he was
Wrong with
incredibly
him?
good and nice to her while he was living there, he says. I was always kind and tried to make conversation and very giving whenever I cooked something or made something nice. I would always offer for her to try and offer to serve her wherever I could possibly help. This was all, however, in vain, and the hate continued to spiral like a Fibonacci spiral, I suppose.
Fibonacci spiral of hate.
Getting more intense against me, and nothing seemed to work. How would you go about dealing with direct hate against you for no apparent reason in such a situation? It was actually an incredible test of my presence to not react and always try to respond with feelings of love as well as wishes towards her. However, towards the end of my stay, I snapped at her after such a long time. Love your work. Wisdom of the Sages keeps on getting better and has surely changed my default mode many times over. Aussie Steve. Okay,
You know,
Raghu.
it's great that he saw that. He put his yoga goggles on and said, you know, this was a great test for me just to be loving despite the hate. You know, a wise sage. I was barefoot hiking through India once, and I met this sadhu. And he came up to me, and I said, do you have any information for me that I can use and apply to my life? And he stopped, put his hand on my shoulder, and said, haters gonna hate.
That wasn't in India. Where did that happen?
Haters but one of
Indiana,
the,
maybe.
the idea is like some people carry a lot of hate around, and we carry hate. Like it's a great metric of your own hate. When you have hate towards somebody, towards someone, towards a person in politics, a person on the streets, a person by their gender or race, a person in your family, a person once your meter goes to hate, you should realize there's something wrong with you. We can hate the hate, but we don't hate the person. And so some people are just so wrapped up and they've been hurt. See, the material world makes you either bitter or better. What do you think about that, Kaustubha? Mug
Bitter.
that one. Put that one on a mug.
Okay.
The material world makes you either bitter or better. So if you're bitter, you just become hateful of situations, of places, of people, of religions, of teachers, it's just a deep-rooted hate. And the problem is you can control it and then it manifests again. So as devotees, as practicing spiritualists, whenever we feel that hate, let a red flag come up and say, hey, Raghu, here it comes again. You're off course. You're off the tracks. Train off the tracks. Once the train goes off the tracks, it's not going anywhere. It's just going to. So this is what we need to hear. So if this person, and there's going to be, you can do everything right. It's not like Christ was causing all types of problems. He was doing everything right. You can't get any more right than Christ, and they killed him. So it's not that people are not going to hate us, even if we're practicing spiritualists, we're kind, we're loving, we see people with equal vision. That's going to happen. By the way, we also could be annoying. That could be that we could also be annoying, Aussie Steve. I don't want to take that away from you. You
Aussie
might
Steve,
be a
never.
little annoying. Maybe. I'm not saying, but you could be. But the thing is, even if you were perfect, a perfected being, people are going to hate you. And how do we deal with hate? Well, there's two ways I find. I keep them at a distance and love anyway. Or if they're really in my life like that, I got to figure out how to manage that. And that's a little tricky. But if they hate you and they're roommate, better you not even just be with them. Sometimes hateful people, when you're kind to them, they'll twist it around and make it some like, they'll still have some issue with you. The sages call that feeding milk to a serpent. It only makes their venom more toxic. Feeding milk to a serpent.
So is your answer just like haters are going to hate and that's it? Like nothing can be done? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I'm pointing out, first of all, I'm taking it personally. Like I have hate in me. Yeah. And it manifests sometimes. And I need to notice it when it comes up.
So first thing is don't hate your hater. Don't hate your
Don't hate your hater, because we got hate in us, and we should notice that comes up. But some people, they need to hate because, by the way, Kylie asked a good question about spiritual bypassing, and we're not answering it today because I want to give a better answer, because there's a lot of very interesting ways to answer that, and I'm going to hold that for next week. Okay. But some people use hate as a bypass to deal with their issues. Mm-hmm. It's not just spiritual bypassing. There's all types of ways you could bypass your own emotional issues.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. You talk.
Well, I don't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. But I was just thinking the one thing I didn't notice in Aussie Steve's question, and I'm not saying he didn't do this, but I don't see anything about like him speaking to her about this. Like, hey, I'm really trying to, work with you here. But it seems like no matter what I do, you hate me. Is there a reason? Is something going on?
That's a good point.
Maybe, and sometimes you do that, and the person maybe just lets go, and you know what? It's really not you. I'm focusing on you, but it's something else. And then you get to the root of it.
Breakthrough.
Yeah, that could have been something like that.
Talking over things sometimes can get us out of that hate bubble. Okay. And sometimes you just get. I was angry about something this week, and then I felt bad because it comes out on everybody around you. You create you create a hand grenade, and then you blow up on anyone who walks by. So it's not a great thing. And by the way, I just want to put this out there. I'm giving the answers to these questions. I'm a pathetic work in progress. I'm just putting that out there to the public. A pathetic work in progress. Make that into a T-shirt.
Did we just go from dented can to pathetic work in progress? Is that like our new thing?
I was a dented can, but I've gone up a notch to a pathetic work in progress. PWP, it's called.
Okay. TWIP.
Anyway, I hope that was useful. But it's tricky dealing with your own hate.
You've had people that hate you for no reason, Raghu. You've had that in your life. I've witnessed it.
Last week, I got that Instagram message because I chose to unfollow a person. I know
the reason why you generally choose to unfollow someone.
Why?
It's like they're getting too sexy on their Instagram.
It's true. Yeah, I'm not into I don't want to see people that I respect practically naked doing splits. You know what I mean? It's just like I unfollow them. It's not good for to put that vision in my mind. If I'm trying to control my mind and my senses, I just unfollow that.
And then they got upset with you.
I don't mean it in a bad way. I just there's certain things I don't allow in my mind.
Right. Okay.
And it's like it's a moment from pornography, but and that's the thing about yoga. It's like So anyway, I unfollowed somebody, and they got so offended that I unfollowed them. They just started railing into me. I know you've always hated me, and issues with. I was thinking, I don't actually hate you. I think you're like a nice person. I don't know what you're talking about. Always hated you. I'm sorry if I hurt your feelings. I regularly unfollow people. It's nothing. It's nothing bad. You're a good person. Why do you have so much anger inside you? And then they got furious, and I just realized that this person is very, very hateful. Like they got so much internal. Yeah. So, yeah.
Next question.
If you start getting too sexy, I'm going to unfollow you. I just want you to know that.
That's the reason why I don't get too sexy on Instagram.
A low cut, pull the shirt off your shoulder.
That's the reason why I don't do that, because I know you'll unfollow me.
Yeah. Okay. Go on. Okay. Now it's your turn.
Now you have a question for me. This is a really serious question. So.
All right. Change my mood.
Yeah.
Can you ask yourself the question while I pull up the question, please?
Well, this is, I can tell you who it's coming from. It's coming from Alexandra via the website. Getting questions coming through the website, yeah.
Okay, I'm going through depression at the moment. Depression. Huge challenges. So many people depressed, by the way. You're not alone. Huge challenges have come up into my life since August. If I didn't have my job, nursing, I'd be thinking about taking my own life. Oh, my God. My bhakti practices can't seem to shake it. I try to go for walks, listening to the Maha Mantra, go to kirtan evenings, but it only goes away for about an hour or so. Even traditional medication doesn't help too much. I don't have any close friends, devotees, or family to ask for advice. I've reached out to mental health services, but they just tell me to keep doing the stuff that I'm already doing. Is there something I'm missing? Kaustubha, help this person, sweet soul.
First, you have my sympathy, and as Raghunath mentioned, it's a fact. I mean, you know what I had to say first? I want to say this straight up first, is neither Raghunath or I are mental health experts, right? So whatever I share here, I'm just sharing observations that I've had and some practical knowledge about yoga and bhakti that is my field, but mental health isn't my field.
Yeah.
Okay. With having said that, as Raghunath said, so many people, struggle with depression. And it's really one of the hardest, maybe the hardest struggle there is. So, you have our sympathy and of course our love and friendship. And, so let me look at your question. I think the essence of this, what I feel is the central question, that's being put forward is, can my bhakti practices cure me of my depression, right? Because I'm applying them. She said, my bhakti practices can't seem to shake it. Is there something that I'm missing? And you see that my understanding is that mental health issues, they're really tough. Even the people that is their field, it's very subtle, and it's, you can have mental health issues and go to 10 different, people in that field and get 10 different, ways to deal with it, 10 different analyses, right?
Sure.
Some people are going to say you need to change your diet, and some people are going to say you need to, the quickest thing, of course, and because it's so built into our, the industry is so powerful, is, and there's so much money in it, is, different types of chemical medications. So,
which sometimes have the side effect of taking your life. They list it as a side effect sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, there's any case, I'm not going to sit here and argue whether that's a good choice or not, and I think, again, it's so subtle that it's hard to, for instance, she says that even traditional medication doesn't help too much. And that may be because you just haven't been properly diagnosed, or, it may be that if you went to another person, they could find traditional medication that would work.
Sure.
You know, that would be really helpful. But you might have to go to 15 different people, and I know that
It's
for
exhausting.
people
too.
struggling, it's exhausting. Yeah,
It's
it's exhausting.
exhausting.
Yeah. What to speak of, what she also says is, I don't have any close friends, devotees, or family to ask for advice. So when you're feeling alone going through the struggle, it's still even that much harder. You know, if you can just have some people there that are with you, and you know they're with you no matter what you're going through, I'm sure that makes it so much easier. And if you don't have that, that's when, you know, I think especially people mention, you know, then I start thinking about taking my own life. I just can't fight this battle any longer. People feel like that. So let me say that, you know, our devotional practices, our bhakti practices, they're meant to help us overcome a lot of our problems. You know, they're meant to help us overcome lust and anger and greed and illusion, and hopefully make us feel happy. You know, that we should feel happiness should increase in us, you know, through our devotional practices. And feelings like anxiety and loneliness and grief and depression, they will naturally begin to subside as we go deeper into that devotional practice. But sometimes these mental health issues, they're kind of like clinical. They're on a clinical level. You know, they're like, there's a reason for it. It's almost like saying, you know, in one sense, God can do anything. And if we turn to God, God can change anything. But at the same time, on a practical level, you know, if I have a broken bone, I don't just chant, but I go to someone to fix that bone. I go to, you know, a doctor who what kind of doctor fixes bones?
Bone doctor.
You go to a bone doctor.
You go to a bone doctor. That's what they do.
And so you know, if I, or even like, you know, just eating to nourish my body, you know, can I just chant and my body will be nourished? No, you know, I chant and that's going to help me spiritually, but as far as my material body, I need to eat, and I need to eat the right food in order to nourish it. You know, so if these mental health issues get to that clinical level where there are loops playing, it's almost like the mind is broken a certain way, and it's sending negative messages again and again and again, and I'm having trouble breaking that loop, and it's feeling so heavy. Well, then we do, you know, outside of our devotional practices, or let's say as a way to hopefully help facilitate my devotional practices, I want to deal with that problem. And so then people will go to different experts, and, you know, they may find that there are different ways to deal with it. Sometimes just through discussion, that's enough to regain control of the mind. You just need someone to sit there and remind you, maybe to help you identify how you got stuck in this loop, and to keep reminding you that that's just a loop and you don't need to listen to it. You know, you can let go of it. And sometimes it needs to be treated chemically. And when I say chemically, it may be, you know, some kind of modern medication. It may be diet. It may be exercise. You know, there are chemicals in the body that are sending different messages, you know, through the, you know, coming from the brain and through the nervous system, you know, making our body feel certain ways. It may need to be treated on that level. I don't know, you know, I can't say, I'm not an expert, and even if I was, it would be hard for me to say exactly what path, you know, is best for you to follow. But at least let me say this, you know, on the optimistic side, a yogic understanding of the mind can be tremendously helpful in breaking the negative loops. If you can reflect on the philosophy that comes, and I'm saying don't stop doing whatever, you know, trying to find the help that you need. But we can say this, that if the philosophy that we get through reading Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita helps us understand that I'm not my mind. And so even as you go through those struggles, if you could, the more deeply you can understand that this is my mind, this is a machine that I'm stuck with that's not functioning well, I believe the deeper the clarity on that hopefully helps you pass through those difficult times. And, you know, ultimately, all of our life's experience is a guide to help us back to spirit or back to God. So from a devotional perspective, when the message that we need to receive through the struggles that we go through life is received and understood, it may be that message stops. You know, you know, we're relieved of that, whatever external struggle we're going through. When I've really understood why I'm meant to be passing through this, it can let go. So, you know, yoga philosophy can be helpful. And ultimately, our devotion to God can't be impeded by any material circumstance, even mental health issues. So your relationship with God is eternal, and the problem with your mind functioning well is temporary. But I can say this, again, search for the help that you need. But this is another thing you might take from this, is that emotion propels us. It moves us. And whether we're feeling well or not, the Bhakti-yogi can always turn to God and allow their emotions to propel them in that direction. So like if I'm feeling happy, I turn my happiness to God and I'm propelled towards God with feelings of gratitude and happiness. And if I'm feeling some kind of grief, some kind of loneliness, some kind of depression, I can allow that emotion to propel me to God. Don't let it be like I lose my faith in God or my trust in God or why has God put me through this, but let it be like, dear God, I've had enough of this world. That feeling of material exhaustion can be a very powerful spiritual, it can put that kind of spiritual fire under us. So I'm not saying that that's going to solve your problem. And I want you to go out and search out, some solution to that problem. And I don't necessarily have the solution to that problem. But one last thing I want to share is that for sure, having people that understand your faith and sympathize with your struggle, and being able to share your feelings with them will help you feel like you're not alone. And it can be really helpful. And so I do recommend, if you haven't already, checking out our Bhakti Recovery group.
Isolation really crushes a person.
It does, yeah.
And
yeah.
so great. It's
can.
great. I'm looking at Nancy R right now. She's nodding. Yes.
Yeah. We received an email just this a couple days ago, may have even been yesterday, the day before, wherein a person shared, they said that the Bhakti Recovery groups literally saved their life, that they were about to take their life. Right? They were calling the suicide hotline, and it was on Christmas Day.
They didn't pick up. The suicide hotline didn't pick up.
Because I think Christmas Day is like a very busy day on the suicide hotline, and then the person was about to just give up. And then they just, although they don't like, they're not very fond of like WhatsApp groups and things like that, but they wrote to the Bhakti Recovery WhatsApp group, and immediately people responded, call me, let's talk. And it was a turning point in their life. And it saved them, and now they're feeling much more encouragement, and that the support from that group has just been huge in their life. So, just go ahead.
When people feel alone, or when people feel sad, they feel like, well, everyone else is doing okay. It must be me who's suffering. The world is in pain. The world is in pain, and it's great to have people. We need lifelines, and I'm really, really grateful for the Bhakti Recovery group in this regard. And if I could just say something, you're not going to lose by joining the Bhakti Recovery group, having those people in your life. You're not going to lose by exercise, and you're not going to lose by good diet, and joining a spiritual community, even if it's online. Even if you're doing those things, you've lost nothing, and there's every chance it could help a little.
Yeah. Lord is saying that Dunya Rico, also who we interviewed, is a great resource.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to write to us, and we might be able to hook you up with that. These are some resources that we're bringing forward. Again, I could imagine for people that have this kind of struggle, and then you go to people that have no understanding of your spiritual background, and that it can be rough. But if you can talk to people that do understand, that are level-headed, and that understand your faith, it can be really helpful. So write to us again if you think we can help out, and Bhakti Recovery Group is there. Please try that. And you're in our prayers, and hopefully you can pass through this in such a way where you come out happy and feeling strong.
We're all praying for you, Alexandra. I'm going to ask a prayer for my friend from Black Train Jack, the singer Black Train Jack's on a respirator. Say a little prayer for him. It's been a very, very tough time, and everyone's feeling it. Kids are feeling it. Adults are feeling it. Marriages are feeling it. So our prayers go out to everybody, and it's actually going to tie into our next question, Kaustubha.
Is it?
What's the next question? No, I think it is.
Well, the next question that I was going to ask was about the mode of goodness. That one from Vinny. From Vinny 3566. Is that the
3566?
Yeah. It's coming from Vinny 3566. And Vinny asks, how does goodness, the mode of goodness, the sattva guna, how does goodness have a grip on us? Because it said, this came in reference to one something that we read or something that we're talking about. I think this came up like it was maybe in the chat group, and it mentioned that the sattva guna can grip us. Right? Generally, we think of sattva guna as like a good thing. So how does goodness have a grip on us? How does it hold us down? He said, I saw a post and I'm looking for clarification.
I was going through a little something a couple of weeks ago and really struggling. And I had a good friend, a devotee that I really respect. And I was just sharing with him and he says, oh, it's bad? Good. I was like, what are you talking about good? He goes, because when it's good, it's bad.
Okay.
You get where I'm going with this? When it's good, it's bad.
Okay.
See, the idea is in Bhakti, when it's good, you forget that the world is temporary, that people get disease, that people get die. Mm-hmm. When it's bad, it sort of like goads us towards turning to God. That's the time when we turn to God. Now, of course, we can turn to drugs. We can turn to suicide. We can turn to alcohol. We can turn to pornography. We can turn to a lot of things that medicate or bypass the pain that's inside of us. But we're training ourselves to take shelter in Krishna when it's bad. And the problem with goodness, the mode of goodness or sattva guna is it's good. It's all good. And we're overlooking that actually, don't you understand what's going on? Your life is like a child holding a spoon in his mouth, balancing an egg. Your life is like that egg, and the child is running down a hill. Okay? That's your life. You know that game what kids do? They run with the egg in the spoon. It's like a relay race in a birthday party.
Okay.
That's my analogy today. That's our life. It's like in that eggshell. At any moment, it can crack. Yet we think it's so solid. It's not solid. If we're under the illusion that it's all good, that's a type of intoxication. So when it's good, it's actually bad for the aspiring spiritualist. We have to keep our temporality. We don't live in fear and anxiety and in like dread, but we're not intoxicated by the romance of existence, and not. This isn't a Hindu thing, a Krishna thing. This is a thinker thing. Thinkers understand that this life is short. What the hell am I doing wasting my time? And so sattva guna is considered a rope, just like rajas and tamas are considered rope that tie the jiva up to this world. And tamas does it with heavy intoxicants. If you're addicted to anything, whether it's an eating disorder, a sexual compulsion, alcoholism, these are like, there's no freedom. You're trapped within your own body and mind. Rajas tie is a rope because it gives us this idea like, not here, but over there, I'll be happy. If I was just with him or with her, or if I had that house or that car, or if I go to Aruba, or if I go to LA, if I just change my situation, it's the rope of thinking my pleasure's not here, it's somewhere else, and I just got to work hard and get it. Sattva is a rope because it makes us think everything's great, everything's cool, everything's fine. Now, when we're spiritually connected, there's a real happiness that comes. But we never neglect the idea of temporality. We understand like this body, this frame, this situation, this family, this home, this is not my ultimate shelter. My shelter is with Krishna. And that's why as monks, you give up all those shelters and you just work on your subtle shelter, which is Krishna. The subtle shelter, or God, or your higher power, that source shelter is actually the real shelter. Not the gross shelter. My car is not my shelter. Even my family, which I love, is not my shelter. My lover, my soulmate is not my God. Only God can be my God. So sattva binds us like that, thinking it's all good. It's not all good. It's all temporary. It's all temporary. And that's okay. And that's okay. And I'm going to live my life like that with my priorities straight. I got to get my priorities straight. That's part of our spiritual life. Because in sattva guna, I'll just do anything, anytime. It's all good. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
When it's good, it's bad.
The nature of sattva guna is contentment.
Yeah.
But spiritual life requires contentment on the material level, but like an eagerness on the spiritual level, right? Like yesterday, it was 81 degrees in New York City, right? Everybody's out in the park. Everybody's like happy, you know. I can just sit here in my, I got this apartment now, and all the benefits of it are becoming more apparent now because it's got the big windows that open up to the trees, and the birds are just chirping. And I could just be like, oh man, I could just sit here and enjoy this all day.
But instead,
without
meditate on death.
Without any eagerness to kind of like, it's kind of like being in prison and saying, oh, it's not so bad here. Well, you'll never get out that way.
Basketball.
You'll never get out that way if you don't have some eagerness. So the contentment, sattva guna is good because it means I'm content with, I'm not going to pursue external material things. I'm content with what I've got. But on the spiritual level, we have to be discontent. We have to be like, I need, to reconnect with intensity, right?
Started my dance already.
All right.
That's why I was thinking it has to do with Alexandra's question about depression and stuff like that. It's bad, and her pain is bad, and her pain is real. And I think what you were encouraging is now's the time to use that
propel
pain
you. Yeah.
to propel you, to taking shelter.
Right. Okay. Next. Firstly,
I just want to thank you so much. This is coming from Deanna Edwards via email.
Okay.
She's following the codes of send your questions to wisdomofthesages108@gmail.com. Firstly, I just want to thank you so much for keeping me grounded. I have been an other for almost a year now. And isn't that great? There's so many others out there we don't know. For almost a year now, and it has only brought light into my life. But I come to you with a burning question. Ever since I was a young child, I've been surrounded by spirituality and meditation. Good for her. In my late teens, I found it hard to navigate through depression and anxiety, which began my spiritual journey.
That's a perfect example right there, right?
Yeah.
It propelled her.
I began learning about topics like yoga and awakening the true self through Eckhart Tolle and Adyashanti, then moved into other spiritual names like Osho, Mooji, Deepak Chopra, and Esther Hicks. Okay. Only within the last year, by the grace of a good friend, have I discovered Krishna and wisdom of the sages. But one thing that clouds my mind is, are all those teachings relevant? Do they play a part in understanding and reaching our ultimate goal in spiritual life, to transcend? I don't doubt the energy of God around us all, nor do I doubt that we are all spiritual beings having a human experience. However, sometimes I find myself confused when listening to one person and then to another. But to my understanding, after these teachings are after all these teaching,
But my understanding, after listening to the stories about Krishna and hearing the Bhagavatam,
there we go. It sounds as if all of these teachings are speaking similar truths, but they are interpreted differently. Can you help me in clearing this up? Is there any one true path for spiritual guidance, or do they all contain nuggets of wisdom that correlate? Thank you for your guidance and your patience and your nectar nuggets, Deanna Edwards.
She did
via
not
email.
say nectar nuggets.
She said nectar nuggets.
No, she didn't.
By the way, nectar nugget, because you know why I say that? Paramananda brought it up yesterday on the chat board. Okay. Nectar nugget was like a health food version of a Reese's peanut butter cup in the 80s. Yeah, we used to always eat them. nectar
Do
nuggets.
they sell them at Ahimsa or something like that?
They used to
Or
sell
whatever
them
that place
at
is?
all
Prana?
those old health food
Prana?
stores in the old days. Yeah, Prana Foods,
Okay.
First Avenue.
Thank you for this excellent question, Deanna Edwards. It's a fundamental question. If you read, a great book for Deanna to read if she hasn't already is The Journey Home by Raghunath Swami, where he's kind of dealing with a similar question. He's going to different teachers, and some of them seem to be, excuse me, some of them seem to be saying one thing, and some of them seem to be saying another. And it's a fact that this Vedic literature of India, where the yoga teachings are coming from, they are interpreted in basically two different ways, right? But let me start this question with one preliminary thought. And that is, if you're going to look at all of that Vedic literature, right, the four Vedas, the Upanishads, the Mahabharata, and all the Puranas, including the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Vedanta Sutra, throw that in there too. It's a massive amount. It's hundreds of thousands, millions, I assume, verses.
Right.
And this is the point. They're not all it's just like going to a doctor. It's all medicine, but it's being prescribed to different people according to their circumstances and according to what they're looking for. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna says, Ye yata mam prapajante tam stataiva bhajamiham. As people surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. I reciprocate accordingly. Right? I reciprocate accordingly. Some people, they're looking for how to be happy in the material world as happy as possible. Well, the Vedas are going to show you how to do that. But that's not the end of that's not, there's more after that. And some people are looking to find relief from the material sufferings of this world. And it can give you that as well. But that's not the end of everything. There's still more. And so what happens, and we read from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and so Deanna, if what we're reading from and the messages that we're sharing, you find a lot of similarities to the things you've heard, but you find something else that's ringing true, well, this is how we would explain it, is that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the conclusion of all of these teachings, and it's meant to help you do exactly what you're trying to do. How do I work this out? How do I put it all in perspective? Are these teachings useful at all? When I was reading my Osho or my Muji or my Deepak Chopra book, it wasn't talking about Krishna and that personal relationship and that I'm hearing from Bhagavatam. But a lot of the other things you're saying I did hear. How do I put it all together? The way that the author of all of these books, and by the way, all of the yoga teachings are stemming from this. Buddhism is stemming from this, and Patanjali's yoga system is stemming from it. They're all stemming from Vyasadev's works. So the way that he explains it is that the way that you'll find it right in the Bhagavatam, right in the first canto, is that so many people were going through exactly what you're going through. I can't quite figure it out, what's relevant and what's not. And Narada, we talked about Narada, I think just yesterday, he appeared to him, his guru, appeared to Vyasadeva, this great sage, and said, people aren't going to be able to figure this out. You need to be more explicit. And so then he explains everything, and he starts right at the beginning that bhakti is the true path to complete satisfaction of the soul. One needs to reconnect with God, and God can be understood in three different ways. One, as his impersonal energy, it's spread everywhere. Two, is God within the heart. And three, God can be known as a person. And so practically, I wasn't familiar with every name that Deanna listed here. But the ones that I am, and I'm familiar with most of them, they're speaking on that level of Brahman realization, right? That you can find relief from all the sufferings of this world and realize that you are spirit, that you're not material, that you're beyond the body, that you're beyond the mind. And we can look at the patterns of the mind and separate ourselves from the mind and go into deep states of meditation and become free from the sufferings of this world. They're all teaching that, and that's valid. That's all valid. But what Bhagavatam is going to be saying, that's only part of the picture. And Bhagavatam is going to say that the deepest levels of complete satisfaction of the soul are only found when you know all three of those features of God, and ultimately the personal feature. And that's why we're all running around this world looking for personal love, because it's our very nature to connect with God as a person. And so are the teachings of the people you listed relevant? Yeah, so much of what they're teaching is relevant. But when it becomes irrelevant, where those same teachers who are sharing stuff with you that's really helpful might actually be stunting your growth is when they try to convince you that any thoughts of God as a person are problematic and are naive and are backwards. Because Vyasadeva themselves, the person who they got either directly or indirectly all of their information from, is clarifying for that. He's saying, no. That personal feature of God is real. And everything is stemming from that, right?
I love how you say that, Kaustubha, because I think in the Bhakti tradition, we're okay with the impersonal understanding of God. It's a real thing. Yeah. And in traditions that say God is energy, that's okay too. But why deny a personal form? Why deny it? And that comes up again and again, not with necessarily all the teachers that she mentioned. But yeah, that's such a good point, that these are all, wherever she's at now, and she likes that place, then you're in debt to all these teachers. Right. But if they're working now against your thought, which maybe they're not, I don't know if she said that, then it's a wonderful thing. You can see how Krishna's has been taking care of you all these years.
I'll tell you, quite frankly, some of these teachers are aggressively attacking any kind of personal perception of God and labeling it as ignorant, naive. They definitely do that,
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, of course, definitely. And so, for instance, my wife asked me to watch a film that she saw, and she got some good things out of it. It was a very interesting film, and it had all of these kind of like high-level spiritual names, people speaking, and they were sharing some really good thoughts. And when people hear those thoughts, it's like, yes, that makes sense.
That's a breakthrough.
Huh? Yeah, it's a breakthrough. That makes sense. But they were also built into what they're saying. They're trying to, like, for instance, how do we interpret like the Ramayana? Well, it's all just a story. It's the hero's journey, and don't try to accept that in any literal way. That would be absurd. God's not a person. God's an energy. You are God. But just try to learn the lesson from it. And in explaining it this way, they're really kind of attacking. They're trying to, they believe it's true. So, they're trying to help.
Yeah, they're trying to help. That's a good point. They're trying to help. They just never had that glimpse. But for us, who we have a personal, for those who've been practicing Bhakti, we have a personal relationship, and it's like, we hate to hear it. We just hate to hear it.
That was my point. I couldn't hear it anymore. At a certain point, it's like, I can't listen to this anymore. It's just like, I feel like, you know what? I can take your word for it, or I could take Srila Vyasadev's word for it, who personally tried to clarify this for me in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And I'm going to take his word, and I meet lots of people that are just as intellectually as powerful as you, that it's not like these are just a bunch of sentimental, ignorant people that are just naive. These are philosophers. These are scientists. These are serious people. But they can, in my point, you see, this is the point. They're providing an antithesis to materialism. But Vyasadeva is saying it's not the full synthesis, right? There's materialism, which is saying we can be happy in this material world. And then there's the antithesis saying you are not your body. You are not your mind. Your much deeper happiness comes by letting go of the material world. Okay? And by the way, you are that spirit. You are that God. I am that, all of that, Tatvamasi. But Vyasadeva comes along and says, yes, that's one stage of moving forward spiritually, but there's more, and there's a deeper synthesis, and that's called bhakti, right? Where we can recognize that I'm not matter, that I am spirit, but we can also recognize the source of that spirit, and we can move through this world not rejecting it, but applying it all in such a way where the divine love, right? Divine love is ultimately what's revealed through it.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
You're beautiful.
You too. And so I'll just wrap it up by saying, are there teachings helpful and relevant? A lot of them are, but I would say according to Vyasadeva, some of them aren't, right? So the Bhagavatam might help you pick through that and say what you want to keep from that and what you want to let go from these teachers. And I'll let it end right there.
Okay, I need to make a pretty hard stop.
Well,
so
I thought at 8:30.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we got another question for you.
Yeah.
This comes from Jason Stiles.
Jason.
which is the correct pronunciation.
Jason Stiles, regular
Stiles.
Zoomer.
He's a regular Zoomer. And this came via email.
And he's hardcore.
Oh, then he
hardcore.
should have no. Okay,
He's a
then
hardcore guy.
you two can relate on that level as you answer this question.
Okay.
Because you speak on this often. How can I become more aloof to public opinion? Right? Because sometimes we hear that, like, in the descriptions of the great Bhakti-yoga saints or something like that, like they were so deep into what they're into that they became aloof from public opinion.
You just answered it.
Oh,
When
okay.
you really get thanks
All right,
for
we
enough.
can stop right now. You had said you had to make a hard stop.
That's the thing. When you, first of all, I think with people practicing bhakti, two things need to happen. One is you got to figure out what your service is. What is your contribution? People in the self-help world, they talk about this, like, what are you here to give and things like that. But in bhakti, we really want to feel like, how can I connect on my spiritual path with what I'm good at, what I can contribute towards, so that I realize I'm part of something bigger. What is that? And when you figure it out, you got to get incredibly, incredibly focused, because whatever you do, there's going to be little bumps on that road, and there's going to be massive bumps, and there's going to be stone walls. There's going to be people whipping rocks at you, and there's going to be people who are saying, you're the best, you're awesome. When we are focused like that, we move straight ahead. I use the example of the train. The train is plowing through town, and sometimes the dogs start to bark. That's part of, it just riles up the local neighborhood dogs. They'll start to bark. Let them bark. The conductor is not going to stop the train to appease the dogs. And some people say, what a beautiful train. What a beautiful train. The conductor is not going to pull over and say, you like the train? Come check it out. The train's got a mission. It's going full speed ahead. So when we're really focused on, this is my offering, whatever the world thinks, love me or hate me, it's gonna. And I can say in my own bhakti path, there's times where I get a lot of accolades, and there's a time where like the world seems to like turn against me for what I'm doing, and I'm not doing anything different either time. And that is just sort of the waves of the material world. Right. Sometimes you have stormy seas, and sometimes it's smooth sailing. So get connected with your offering, and everything, and then nothing else will matter. Now, of course, in some little minutia of life, I care about what the devotees think about me. Like if I'm doing something off track, and Kaustubha says, "Hey, Raghu, I think you're a little off track. I don't want to be aloof to, say, Kaustubha, who I respect and I appreciate him." And then another great soul says, "Hey, Raghunath, I think you're a little off there. I don't want to be aloof to the opinion, to the opinions of the devotee or the spiritual community. Matter of fact, before I even make an endeavor to make a spiritual offering, I want to go to people that I respect and say, I'm thinking about doing this. What is your opinion?" And I want to get their blessings. And I want them to say, yeah, you're right on, Raghu. You should be doing this. And then I move full steam ahead. So I do care about the opinions of, my spiritual family, who I believe have integrity, or my teachers, and I want their blessings for it. But once I get those blessings and I feel like I'm on the path, I just keep moving straight ahead. I do think it's important to always have people that you check in with on a regular basis. And I have people like that in my life, that whenever I'm at a fork in a road, I consult. What do you think about this? This is what I'm going through. This is my options. What would you do in such a situation? Please share. So I think that's also important. What do you think about that?
I think it's great.
You think you got some dance music for me? Thanks, everybody. Bhakti Recovery Group today. We did it. We made it through another day somehow.
We didn't get up on Facebook, but
we
tried.
Get it on Facebook. We miss Mara. She'll be back. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Tomorrow, Sweet Baby Emi, the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for Patreon members. If you'd like to become a Patreon member, go to patreon.com/Wisdom of the Sages, and you can join our little Patreon party. Monday, we have the day off, and we'll see everybody Tuesday, 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I'm really grateful for this entire community. It helps me, keeps me on track in my spiritual path. I do good with rules. I'm a good rule guy. This is the rule. Every day you wake up and you do this. That's the rule. I need
What do
those
you do?
type of like parameters. I like rules. 5 a.m. You get up and you do the show. That's it. Now we dance. Now we still haven't mastered the dance cam. Have you, Kaustubha?
No, I got it. You don't
Oh,
think
you
I
got
can
it?
do it? You just watch.
Whoever's dancing has to follow my dance, though.